I'm just riding past that driveway, doo, ring my bell, gonna go play with my friends. This fucking guy, boom! You ready to? I don't think I've told this story on the channel yet. When I got hit by a car. This animation is just good. Huh?
Your body got hit?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I was on my bike.
There's a girl at our high school that got hit 2 times by a car.
All right. Well,
remember
don't
you-
try and upshow my story.
I'm not.
Skid marks.
Huh?
Please tell your story. I'm ready.
Okay. So, I was riding to the woods to do stuff with Steve and Spencer and them.
When was this?
Oh,
This was that time period.
this was 8th grade.
Okay.
It
Yeah,
was
no, I
it
know
was
what
the
you're talking
it was
about.
the summer that I moved out.
Oh,
So
oh.
just a big kiss goodbye from Cleveland.
Yeah. Quick pause, real quick. This just makes me want to mention the fact that when Nick moved, he didn't tell me he was moving, and I get there on freshman year in high school, and the first time I'm like, dang, anyone see Nick? And they're like, he moved. And I'm like, he did? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, to where? And they're like, to like North Carolina or something. I'm like, what? And I'm like looking around like, good to know.
Sorry about that. But so I was riding my bike, and
Yeah.
I was almost there, and just
You were on the street.
yeah, I was on the street. I was going down, and just this Subaru. I will always remember it's a Subaru, and I despise every Subaru every time I see them on the road nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, Subarus are trash vehicles anyway, but
Exactly.
continue.
He thought, I don't know why he would think this. He goes, I'm going to floor it out of this driveway. And he just, I'm just riding past that driveway, doo, ring my bell, gonna go play with my friends. This fucking guy, boom! Okay, I go over the hood, he goes over my bike, and...
Wait, hold on. You went over the hood? Like he was facing you?
Yeah, he was, I guess he backed,
Like
he backed into the driveway, so he was coming out.
Oh, so he saw you.
He saw me.
He had to have seen you.
He saw me.
He looked at you like, challenge yourself.
Yeah, I roll over the hood. I'm on the sidewalk. I'm just laying there. I sit up, and he drives away.
He drives away.
He drove away
After hitting someone?
after hitting me.
This guy belongs in jail.
He does.
That's not normal human being behavior.
It's not. I don't know what happened. I
That's
still to
crazy.
this day I don't know what was going through his mind.
He had just killed the owner of the house or something. He was trying to get out of there. So here's the question: did he not did he just not care about you at all, or has he hit so many people at this point
That
Yeah.
he just was like, I can't.
that he
I
just
know
doesn't think about
you're a
it?
child, but I'm leaving.
Does he just not think any? Is that normal behavior for him to hit people?
I don't know because I didn't even get to see his face. It could have been a her.
Well, but-
I don't know.
That I just mean it's the fact that obviously you couldn't grab a plate or anything in time to actually do anything about it. It's just that
Yeah, because I
talk about a hit and run.
when I was looking up is when he started to drive away because I just laid there for a second, just comprehending what.
Okay,
what.
so here he is sitting. So here he is sitting in his car, wow, I just totally rammed that kid. It's
Yeah.
He's not up yet. I have time to get away.
Short of the story, I didn't tell my parents because I remember as a kid, I remember my mom saying something if you get if you're not careful and you get hit by a car, I'm not letting you go out ever again. So my mind was
so you're sitting here I can't tell
yeah,
anybody.
I didn't tell them until 10th grade.
And what they say?
I was at the doctor and the doctor came up to them and she goes, he's hit by a car, right? And they were like, what? Because I told the doctor because I was talking about my bad knee.
Oh,
Yeah.
wait.
but-
So you didn't even tell him.
no.
Why did he tell? Why was it pertinent that they needed to know?
Because she was talking about the bad knee and my parents were like, well, why would he have a bad knee? And she looks up and I didn't tell her that I didn't tell him. She goes, well, remember when he got hit by a car? And they're like, no, we don't remember. And I remember I made it to the street. I was walking my bike to go into the woods and
I
see
think
them.
the best part about that whole story is the fact that your parents didn't know in the way they found him.
Right? Yeah, but I was walking down, and Spencer is arriving at the same time, obviously late. I was late for a reason. He was late because he's Spencer. And
Yeah.
and so he's
that is
like,
the reason.
he was like, "Well, you walking your bike?" I was like, "I just can't buy a car." And so he rides in, he gets ahead of me, he rides in, and all I hear from the woods is, "Guys, Nick got hit by a car."
Yeah. That's exactly what happened.
And then I come in and TikTok is like, "You're alive?" It's like, "Yes." He didn't specify. He just wrote it and said that, and like I had to come in and be like, "I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'm
I
not
think my
fine."
favorite part
But
about this.
probably shouldn't use names when we do stories and stuff.
Yeah, I know.
It's whatever.
We're bad about
He's
that.
a James. There's a thousand white guys named James. There's
You're
a
right,
thousand
it's like saying
druggies named
Kyle.
James. Yeah, Kyle.
Like saying Kyle. Like,
Kyle. Should that be the name we use whenever we're talking about someone? Kyle.
yeah, we'll just say Kyle.
Oh,
Everyone's Kyle now.
Dundee, do you wanna tell Steven the story about the Kyle that drove up behind you for a joke and made you hit his car?
Oh, yeah. So here I am. We went to lunch with a bunch of people. There was like 6 of us there, I think. So I get in my car. This is up at Great Northern. I get in my car. I parked in the literal middle of nowhere. There's no cars around me.
That's the best place
Anywhere.
to park.
Yeah, exactly.
So you
There's
just
a
park like a
road in
dick.
front of. There's a road in front of me. This guy.
Kyle.
4 parking lots over. Yeah, Kyle. 4 parking lots over. Okay. Pulls up, decides to stop his car directly behind me for a joke. As I am backing out. Guess what happened?
You hit him.
Yeah, but it gets even better. So I am driving my 2002 Mustang, which is solid steel construction.
Don't make them how
that
they
is-
used to.
Yeah, it was when domestic cars were still like indestructible, basically. But so solid steel. My idol. Okay, it's important. This is an important part of the story. If I take my foot off the brake without hitting the gas, my car will hit 20. It idles really fast. But that's an important part of the story. My car can go 20 without hitting the gas.
Weird flex, but
Uh-huh.
alright, continue.
So here I am, backing up. I have no idea he's behind me. I look in my mirrors and stuff. First off, it's a pitch white car, so it'll blend in either way. And so I look in all my mirrors, I check. And then I'm like, okay. I start backing up and I just hear it. And I'm like, oh, that's unfortunate. And well, my first response was, there's literally no one in this whole parking lot. What on earth did I just hit? And then I hear this Kyle shout, dude, and I'm like, oh.
Oh, God.
It's also important to specify that I never liked this guy to begin with. Yeah, I never liked him. He's friends with my friends, which is why we were there. So I get out of the car. Not shockingly, my car has a tiny scratch that you can barely see on it. Yeah. Like when I first looked at it, I thought there was no damage. It took me like a solid 30 seconds of staring directly at it before I saw the scratch. It's like, and meanwhile, the entire door of his vehicle was dented in.
Oh.
Yeah. And it could open, but it was like,
What was it, like a
bad.
2017?
Yeah, it was a 2016, I think.
AKA, at the time this happened, probably, he can't afford
Plastic,
it.
basically. Yeah. Well, first off, it was his mom's car. Oh yeah. And he had just gotten his license 2 weeks prior. And I mean, the first thing, the thing that made me the most mad is that you don't play with cars. They're not toys. Yeah, he was like, it was a joke. I'm like, you don't joke with cars. And I'm like, because he had a passenger. I'm like, I could have killed the person in your passenger seat if I had hit my gas. And I'm like, do you understand the gravity of what you were doing? I don't think he did.
I did.
But so anyway,
So
I
anyway,
look at him and I'm like, well, I was like, it shouldn't be that much. I'm a mechanic. I have a general idea of stuff like this. And I look at it, I'm like, it shouldn't be that much. I'm like, they're just going to pull the door out. And I'm like, it'll probably you'll get a new door. And I said that at the time, assuming that the dent was just the door. But so, a lot of arguing later, before, me and my father agreed, okay, you need to go take this to a body shop. We'll pay whatever they tell you it costs, and we'll just pay it outright. We didn't want to get the insurance involved and stuff like that. And so they take it, they come back, they say it's going to be, they're like, well, we went to a couple places, and one was 2,300, and one was 2,700, and we want the 2,700. And my dad's like, well, first off, you're not getting the 2,700, so hold your horses. And he said, and we were like, second, why on earth was it so expensive? And they were like, well, because they said that you dented the breaker bar in the door, and that because of that, they need to like change both doors on that side and stuff like that. And I was like, yeah, that sounds like a whole lot of BS, but okay. And
they said you broke the engine, so
I look at it, and we said, okay, we'll pay the 23. They then said no. They wanted to go through the insurance, and I was like, oh, so basically you just want to pocket the money and move on, because we were going to go to the actual body shop and pay the body shop to make sure that they couldn't just pocket the money and go on. And so once we got the insurance involved, which we didn't want to do, but they got involved, and the insurance basically looked at the situation and said, okay, this really isn't your fault. And they said, you're at fault legally, but it's not really your fault, so we're only going to give them a third of what they need to fix it.
Get fucked.
So they were asking for 2,300. The insurance decided to only give them like $600, if that, and they weren't going to change my rate at all.
Beautiful. Do you want
And I was
to
like,
explain that meeting in detail, like you did?
Oh yeah.
This is the fun part.
This is the goal. We decided to meet with him and his parents, me and my dad, to discuss what we were going to do about it. And we get there, and so this kid's dad's a lawyer apparently, and he thinks he knows everything. And I'm like, wow. I'm like, good thing you brought a lawyer to talk about cars to a mechanic. And but so we get there and we sit down, and they tell us, they're like, well, Caleb's at fault. And it's like, well, why don't we hear both sides of the story before you just start blaming me? It's like they sat down and pointed at me basically and said, it's your fault. And they're like, in an insurance situation, the person who hit them is always at fault. I'm like, that is the most stupid thing I've ever heard in my life, because it's wrong. I'm like, the person who hit them isn't always at fault. I'm like, you got to look at the situation.
All you got to say is, oh, so if your son floored it through a red light and got hit, it's the person who hit him's fault.
Yeah, exactly. So then it's like, well, wait a minute. And we were talking about it and arguing, and then at one point my dad looks at this guy and says, why don't you tell your parents what you told me? And he said, what? And he's like, Caleb, please tell them what he said. And I was like, the minute the cars came in contact with one another and I got out of the car, the first thing he said is, I'm sorry, Caleb, it was a joke. His parents then go dead silent. And they look over at him, and they look back at us like, okay, we've got to support him through this, but
we've got to nurture our little baby.
Yeah, they treat him like an angel too. They think he's like God and can't do any wrong. But so they're like, and they continued time and time again to like make stuff up to support this. And I'm like, no, he literally admitted it. He admitted to saying it.
Is.
There is a witness. There was a passenger in the car.
Yeah, not only that, I had a passenger. We both had passengers. There were multiple witnesses to it. But so it was like, I'm sitting here and I'm like, he said it was a joke. And they were like, well, they kept trying to make stuff up, and it was like making me really mad. I'm like, so anyway, halfway through that, my dad says, I think we're done here. Gets up and starts walking out, and they're like, wait, you didn't give us your insurance. And he's like, I didn't. And we kept walking. That was my second accident. I was in an accident before that.
I haven't heard this one.
And this one was my fault.
No.
Nice. Let's hear this.
It was in the Ranger, that death trap.
Yeah.
But my car now is steel. That car was like steel. Like, I was pulling into the Walmart parking lot.
Oh yes, that parking lot's also a death trap.
Yeah, that parking lot's terrible.
And Target are both horrible.
And I'm going, I have never been good at parking. That's why I always park in empty parking lots now. and like, in the back. So I got really cocky one day because I was just running into Walmart to grab something, and I decided there was an open spot right up front, and I'm like, dang, that baby's got my name. And I roll up.
Dundee
And I'm
sees
going-
handicap spot in the front. Oh, baby.
But I'm pulling in, and I'm like, okay. And I misjudged the distance between me and the car next to me as I was pulling in.
Mm.
Just hear a big boom. Because that vehicle also idled pretty
I
quick.
want to imagine
Not-
you just not even turning and you just driving directly into this car and just being like,
Yeah.
parked.
I had my wheel cocked as far as it could go, and I should have reversed and corrected before I went in fully.
Yeah, that would have been smart.
But so I was pulling in, and I hit the front of their bumper with my bumper.
Were they there?
No, they weren't. They were inside Walmart.
Thank God.
which
Did
made
you
it
leave a
even
post-it
worse.
note and drive away?
Well, wait. No,
Damn it.
I'm not a terrible human being.
Hey, you left a post-it at least. You didn't crash into it and drive away.
So my heart sank. I pulled out. I properly pulled into the parking spot. I get out of the car, and I'm like shaking, and I'm like, oh man. It made me mad. A lady like 3 cars down is now writing both our license plates down because she thinks I'm about to drive away, and it made me really upset.
You gotta love Cleveland.
Oh, I know. And she runs inside of the Walmart, and I'm like, oh. The next thing I know, a Walmart employee comes out with his super Walmart cape. Like the manager of the Walmart, one of them comes out,
This
and
super
he's like-
Walmart cape.
Captain Walmart.
and he sees me, and he's like, he walks up to I was on the phone with my dad at the time, telling him to come up there. I needed him,
Yeah.
And I said, I'm calling I was calling the police and stuff, and he walks up, and he's like, I got this note, and it said my license plate, space, hit, space, their license plate, and and he's like, I got this note, and he's like, are you like on the phone taking care of it right now? And I said, yeah. And he's like, okay. And he walked inside. He basically just came out to make sure, again, that I didn't just drive away.
Yeah.
And so
I'll
here I
tell
am,
a story
I'm on the
about
phone.
driving away after this one.
And then the guy comes out, and I felt terrible. He comes out. You could tell that they weren't well to do. And it was him and his wife and like 4 kids.
Oh, God.
And they had, like,
Did you hit a
cart full of
fucking
girls.
minivan? What's going on here?
Yeah, I hit like an SUV.
Oh, my God. You
And-
should have known.
I know. I felt so terrible because I had like
The
tore
kids
their
go,
entire front.
Mommy,
Well,
why do we have to walk home now?
It's
It's snowing.
I tore their entire front bumper off with the thing, and I was like, oh man. And they come out, and I'm like, oh wow, I feel terrible. And because my dad got there before they came out, and we were just waiting for him.
Oh, yeah.
And
Kids
my
have
dad's
the
like,
biggest, beadiest Puss in Boots eyes.
yeah, my dad looks down, and he was like, and he looks at me, he looks back down, and he's like, it's not that bad. And I was like, thinking we're on the same wavelength. But I could tell they're probably going to end up getting a new bumper.
Yeah.
So the guy comes out, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And I'm like, please tell me that's not our guy. And I was like, oh, it's so bad. And, he was like, he gets out, and he's like, oh. And he's like, okay. And he sounded dead inside.
Oh.
But it gets worse. And he tells the kids to go get in the car with their mom. And he's like, let's just exchange insurance and license stuff. And he's like, man, and he's like, this is the 3rd accident I've been in this month.
Oh
And I was
my
like, none of them his fault.
God!
But, he said, he's like, but the
His
issue
van
is,
is
he's like,
just
get-
a fucking
I-
spotlight for hate crimes, apparently.
I know. And he's like, and he says, he's like, the issue is, he's like, the insurance doesn't care who was at fault. All they see is that you've been in 2 accidents, so you're more likely to get into more.
Oh my
Then, and
no!
I'm like, oh man, this is awful. I'm like, man, please stop. And I was like, you're making me feel terrible.
Just don't call the
And,
insurance. Just take my money. Go.
Well,
Be free.
well, and so the cop gets there, right? And
Oh.
he says, he's like, okay. And he says, technically, this is on private property, and as Walmart.
Mhm.
And he said, if I were you guys, and he said, because you're under 18, so the insurance is just waiting to bump your insurance up.
Oh yeah.
And he looks over and he's like, and you've been in 2 accidents this month. He's like, the insurance is also waiting to bump your insurance up. And he's like, they're looking for reasons. And he said, so if I were you guys, he's like, I wouldn't tell the insurance, and I would just handle this under the table.
Yes,
And problem
exactly.
solved. So we agreed on that. We exchanged phone numbers. The guy went to an auto body shop, came back, said $900 for a new bumper, and we said okay, gave him money in cash, and problem solved.
What a fucking hero.
Yeah.